Good morning, happy Friday. Tim Wiles Ascension update from the frosty woods this morning. I think the last time I did one it was the wet and windy woods, or just the soggy. So I hope you're all okay. Happy retrograde, not just a happy Friday, it's a happy retrograde Friday. For Mercury has entered its first retrograde of this incredible year, 2022. So, as with my speech this morning and the general flow of energy, we are being asked to look at everything in our lives at the moment that is wired incorrectly, internally and externally, as within, so without. So I think the particular retrograde that we are going to experience now is going to be in Aquarius. Now Aquarius is the rebel, the water bearer, the sign and the energy that is here to break down the old restrictions, the constraints, the aspects of our societies that kind of, like, you know, are there unnecessarily. Now this is a lot of what we're going to be looking at this year generally as a whole, not just for this particular 3 weeks of the retrograde, is what can we remove from our environment internally and externally that is no longer serving us, that is part of the old matrix system, the old 3D matrix. And it's with the energy of this year so far. I mean, we began on January the 1st, but it didn't feel like it was the only thing that felt different was the freshness. It's almost like somebody just opened a door, walked outside, and the air was fresh and clean rather than filled with smog. The energy has continued to be incredibly intense. On a daily basis, we build every day, or every minute even, that we spend on this beautiful planet. The frequency of light becomes higher. So all of the seven cosmic suns that bring their light down through Helios and therefore into our four-body system, our increasing number of ascension chakras, this is rising as we are, even as you're listening to this. And the internal flow of light that we bring in is dictated by the quantity of stuff that we are still carrying within our fields. Now it's the stuff within our fields, or the experience of the stuff within our fields, that I want to have a little bit of a look at this morning. Okay, now I've kind of hinted at mentioning previously in videos about talking about kind of light worker trauma, light work, or even so far as to even call the topic light worker PTSD. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, I'm not a mental health expert, I've got no qualifications in this field whatsoever, but what I do know is what I have witnessed for the last decade, even longer, with the souls on the ascension pathway. And it's paradoxical, because the majority of the time we are all drawn to the spiritual pathway, or we were drawn to the spiritual pathway, because of the vibration of light that pulls us in. There would usually be an event, like a change of circumstances, a dark night of the soul, a passage of initiations that goes on in the kind of the 3D consciousness of a human being, that just completely smashes us out of that previous state of inertia and launches us into the spiritual field. Now that can happen on a variety of ways. The old-fashioned way, the way that I was introduced to it, was just to be basically aware of worlds beyond worlds, things that other people didn't see. And I've had that since a childhood. Any of you that have listened to me speak in my live events, or or actually in person presenting, I've explained many times about my kind of like experiences as a child when I was as awake, as a conscious, spiritually sensitive child. Now many of us are, but it all depends on our choice of parents, who we chose to be our parents before we incarnated on this planet. Because your parents will either support that sensitivity within the child, within you, or they will shut it down, or society will shut it down, or school will shut it down, or experiences with other people will shut it down. And it's very natural for highly sensitive and psychic and very open children with supportive parents to actually shut down naturally in their teenage years anyway, because being a teenager is you only experience it once. You go through that growth tunnel of your teens. When you eventually come out the other side of it, 19 years old, you're the final part of the soul downloads, and you become, technically spiritually, a responsible adult. Well, all of this occurs, and you have to focus on it. And so we've got this situation flowing at the moment where all of these energies and all of these experiences that we are storing within our fields are beginning to have a build-up effect. So whether you've woken up over a long period of time like I did, whether you were kind of catapulted into the the chaos of the fourth dimension after 2012 onwards, and these are the kind of the different categories of soul wake-ups that I know about. The long-term ones are what we would call way showers, and like, we've been around the block a few times. We've tried all of the Reiki, the crystals, the healing, and all of the other things that we had the time to kind of integrate with. And then 2012 happened, the cosmic moment, the 21st of December 2012, where the vibration of the planet that we live on changed overnight. That was the end of the Atlantean era, believe it or not. 10,000 years after the fall of Atlantis, the actual era of Atlantis finished. And when it did, our planet moved into the fourth dimension. Now, the period between 2012 and 2019 woke a lot of people up due to the increased pressure of the light that was coming in and the changes of vibrational circumstances during that period of time. And they're what I kind of call sentinels. Okay, a sentinel would be somebody who wakes up a little bit later, but at a pre-designated time that is allocated by the soul. So it's a little bit like a stopwatch. When the stopwatch stops, all of a sudden, bang, a set of circumstances will occur in a soul's life that will wake them up. But the wake-ups that we're seeing at the moment are a little bit different. Anybody from, say, 2018, 2019 onwards have been kind of, what's the better word, like shaken or exploded awake, or just simply, it's like coming out of a dream, waking up. In the last 2, 3, 4 years, is like waking up out of a dream very suddenly. And what I'm seeing as a result of this, and also as a result of the incredible circumstances that we are witnessing and experiencing around the world, can only be described as light worker PTSD. Sorry, get my words out. Light worker fatigue, tiredness, trauma, soul exhaustion, and light worker PTSD. Now there's a million different circumstances that would create the build-up effect that would actually would tell somebody like me or you or anybody else around you to actually have to step back and go, hang on, I'm not firing. I'm not firing on all 4 cylinders. I need to take some time out. I need to breathe, to recuperate, to connect with nature. If any of you have ever wondered why I do this in the garden, it's because this is my connection point. This is where I ground. This is where I feel what is going on around me. Before I started recording, I put my hands upon the tree right by the side of me here, this beautiful beech tree, and just asked if there was anything that was available in the field that they wanted me to speak about. And when I say they, I mean the tree network, the unity grid. If you look at how trees operate, all of the roots of all of the trees are linked together and they communicate with each other, very much like the energetics of what we are doing at the moment. So we are all communicating via our energy fields. We don't have roots physically, but we have them energetically. Our Earth star that moves into the crystalline grid around the planet, and the way that our navel chakras are all interconnected with each other. So there's this constant flow of energy between all living, sentient and conscious things. Now, the circumstances that we are all witnessing and experiencing at the moment, including the kind of this popcorn effect of all of the wake-ups around the world, is causing a field of stress, of trauma, and in some ways I see this as almost it's conditioning and programs in some cases. One thing that has always been very much part of light worker psychology is waiting for the hammer to fall a little bit, or maybe it's just human psychology, waiting for the hammer to fall. I'm a human on planet Earth. I'm actually enjoying myself. I'm loving my surroundings. I'm living my best life. When's something awful going to happen to me? And that's a very common one. That's been programmed into us since the fall of Atlantis. We've had the various cataclysms, the wars, all of the things that happened during the third dimension programmed into our DNA, into our chakras, into the collective fields of living experiences that all of us have had over the many, many lifetimes. And that's a shared field. It's like an iCloud that we tune in and out of whenever we have a vibration that matches that experience. So at the moment we have these collective fields of experience, and I witness on a daily basis people very much tuned into the doom scenario of what's occurring around the world. Okay, now I've mentioned I think this particular comparison was very much a thing in 2020 or 2021, where there's two very distinctive fields of light workers that operate. There's the truth light workers, and there's the lovey light workers. Okay, and it's all about finding a balance. One field supports the other, and the other field supports the other one. So one can't do their job without the other set doing their job. But there's this opposition all the time, and the common theme amongst truthers and this is putting stuff into boxes. The common theme amongst truthers is to say we must look at the truth. We must shout the truth from the rooftops, despite how dark or frightening that truth might be. Everybody must hear it, and that is correct. We must be aware of what is going on around this planet. We must be aware of the world that we have lived in that was illusional, and accept and acknowledge the shadow. So the shadow is what we are stepping out of into the sunlight, and everything clears. Not all in one go, peacefully and harmoniously, but that's the journey. And the other side is the pillars of light, what we call the love and light gang, who are simply here to hold that high vibration. And for them it is very, very important to stay focused on the light and only the light. And this is where things get a little bit technical and a little bit complicated, or it needs a serious quantity of spiritual discipline applied to it. We need to be a balance of the two. Okay, we need to be a balance. We need to be that line in the middle, that point where we can get through our ascension process by the means of least resistance, finding the point of least resistance and taking it. but also feeding everything into our bodies and fields that we need and that everybody else around us needs simultaneously. So too much of one is too much, and too much of the other is too much, and it's finding the balance, the centre point. Sometimes that does mean looking at things that make us uncomfortable. It does mean acknowledging or accepting the situations that are going on around the world for what they actually are. And yes, there is a very energy hungry 3D matrix that is doing absolutely everything, and we're going to see the best of this display this year, where the matrix is claiming to, it's trying to reclaim what it's losing rapidly. So all of us who are waking up, all of the souls that are unplugging and returning to a state of heart-based consciousness, every soul that unplugs from the matrix leaves it deflated, disempowered, smaller than it was previously. So this is the year that the truth merges with heart-centeredness. So truth with anger, with rage, it remains in that field. It remains in the field for which that information vibrates at. It doesn't take a higher form. When you add heart-centeredness to it, when you add a higher perspective to it, that truth then takes the light of a higher consciousness. And this is what is going to be so important about this year, is how to infuse everything that we know with the knowledge and the wisdom of our hearts and move forwards, taking the correct and the highest course of action possible. But in the mix, in the middle of this kind of like this maelstrom of all of these truths, realizations, wake-ups, dark nights of the soul, initiations, all of the things that we go through, you and I and all of the others around us, the ones that have realized that we are serving this planet, we have incarnated here for a specific purpose, and actually each one of us holds quite a weight of responsibility on our shoulders. Once we actually realize that, it can become quite overwhelming. Okay, so one thing that I believe is important for us to begin to acknowledge at the moment, specifically during the course of this year, is how to really truly look after ourselves, and how to really truly look after each other and be supportive of each other. And there has to be, the first thing that we have to do is set firm boundaries for ourselves. Okay, now I know many of you are very good at doing this. We've been tested for many years on, you know, it's the old kind of adage of light workers are too nice, or, you know, to be spiritual is to give everything away, to give all your time out without a second thought for yourself, and all of these old kind of old kind of defunct perceptions of what a light work or a spiritual person should be. And I say spiritual person in inverted commas there, because we all had this very kind of like almost delusional view of ourselves, where we shouldn't love money, we shouldn't love ourselves, we shouldn't have an ego or love ourselves in any way, shape or form, because it wasn't the thing to do. So a lot of us have been actually taught or programmed to diminish ourselves, or to give so much of ourselves that we've got nothing left, that we're pouring from an empty cup and we've got nothing. And of course, you know, if we're on the right pathway, we know that that is not the case, that the universe is infinite in its abundance, and you will create whatever you believe for yourself, and what you love will come into your life. So first and foremost is that we start this year, or I believe we should start this year, with very firm boundaries about what we take on, who we take on, and be nurturing and continuously aware of ourselves, because we can't do this job effectively if we're completely flattened. Now I know this from personal experience. You know, I'm not sat here talking about something that just happens to have caught my interest. This is stuff that I've worked through again and again and again. You push too hard, you draw a flat line, and you have to stop. and you have to regenerate. And that regeneration period is sometimes, although it's not comfortable at the time, you look back on it and think, oh wow, I felt absolutely amazing during that. I had time to breathe, I had time to switch off, I had time to recuperate, I had time to do the things that I wanted to do, even though I might have been physically ill at the time. So don't let it get to the point this year, you know, even though it's only January the 14th, don't let it get to the point this year where you are flattened by the universe before you actually realise that you need to take a break. Step back. If your inbox is full of messages or emails, remember, and this is important, remember that every single email, every single message, every single exchange on social media that you have is a contract of energy. You give something, the other person gives something, and that is a two-way flow. If you haven't got the energy to do that, okay, it's going to take more out of you than you've actually got for yourself. So step back. We all understand the pressure that we are under to perform, to be responsible, to do the job that we're here to do, and acknowledge the fact that some of us might have actually been thoroughly traumatized by the way that we've woken up, by the things that we're actually that are going on in the world. And I'm going to be looking at this more in depth over the course of the year. Actually, I wrote up a workshop yesterday, which I'm going to be running on the 16th of February, working very directly with the ways that we can suddenly find ourselves, you know, like in a state of trauma, anxiety, having taken on too many energies that don't belong to us. I've nicknamed it light worker PTSD, but I do believe that to a degree, or it is a thing. I believe it is a thing. Having seen the collective fields and the way, maybe it's not just. I think maybe it's just Earth PTSD. It's transformation PTSD. It's where we experience and survive within some extreme and incredible circumstances over a lengthy period of time, and eventually we suddenly find that we are in survival mode, that we haven't stepped out of survival mode, and that we're constantly waiting for the hammer to drop. And this year it's going to be a work of art between all of us to break that expectation of negativity that we all have. Okay, and I've seen evidence of this occurring quite recently, where there is actually signs and the beginnings of progress and good news that we're starting to see around us. And because we're so programmed to fear the worst at the moment, people dismiss it. They dismiss it as a false light theory, or something that's been put there to, you know, and to put there to deceive people. Now, how long's that going to go on for? You know, is it going to still be continuing when we've actually moved into the fifth dimension? Our vibrations are all high and our hearts are open, and we're all and there's groups of people doubting it. Oh no, you know, this is deception of the 3D matrix. At some point we've got to acknowledge that there is good things happening. There is forward movement and forward progress occurring, and love in the hearts of the people around us. But we're all having a shared collective experience, and some of us are here to bring others out of it. But we can't do it if we are devoid of energy, devoid of time for ourselves, and are generally completely flattened or knackered in any way, shape or form. So use this Mercury retrograde very carefully. Okay, the retrograde starts today. I didn't even actually realise that there was a retrograde brewing. I thought we were already in it, kind of thing. But it's today. Okay, it began yesterday or today, depending on what part of the world that you are situated in. And I think it is going to be a beautiful 3 weeks to just examine everything, all the programming, all of the things that don't work, as within so without, the things that don't work within sight in us, and the things that don't work in our reality personally and collectively. Okay, now Next week on the 18th, Mia Kafkios and I will be running a Facebook Live in the morning. Well, I'll put some information up about that. And we'll be talking about the 6-month journey that we are launching in March. And I'm very excited to be working with Mia on this. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good fun, and it's gonna be based around supporting everybody who joins through this particular journey. And on the 23rd, Lavisa Altorn and I are going to be working with the Golden Christ Light. And now Lavisa holds incredible Norse energy, knowledge and power, and I'm going to be bringing my side to the event as well. So there's lots to look forward to, and of course this will be running the retrograde, won't it? So happy days. Sending you all so much love. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. I am going to be looking at this subject in greater detail, so this is just the beginning of it. The ways that this ascension process is affecting us as light workers, and what we can do to deal with it. Support ourselves and support each other in the best way possible. Love you all. See you soon. Bye.